Welcome to Decker Tech. I'm Aaron Decker, and today we're talking about Wilbur. Wilbur is the wielder of thunderbolts and lightning and is very, very frightening once he comes into his own. Wilbur suffers for a little bit of a slow start, and so can use a little support and encouragement in the early game as a DPS. Speaking of support and encouragement, I also really enjoy that a lot because I put a little bit of myself in each of these videos, and so the more gratitude and platitudes I get, the more it encourages me to keep making this sort of content. You can also directly support me with the new thanks option. There's a little heart below the screen that allows you to do some more direct supporting of this content and future content like it. So if you like what you're seeing, please do one of the above, and we'll get into Wilbur. Wilbur is a lightning mage. We are going to be talking about the DPS version of him, not the support version. This first starting thing here is kind of more of a support thing than the DPS one. We'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about Tesla Coil, because at the start of your turn, a random team member gets 1 energy. Or 1 energized. Which, as our main damage dealer, isn't really going to help us much. So, not what we're looking for yet. But we're almost there. We'll get there. Next option is Skillful and Circuit Overload. Circuit Overload says more spark charges for 1 turn, and the more energy we spend in that turn, the more spark we get. One thing of note with Spark Overload is this actually scales a lot better with a lot of 1-cost cards instead of 1 huge card. We're not going to be able to play around that as much as we'd like, but that is something to note, that on a Circuit Overload turn, if you have 2 equally good plays, but one involves casting more cards with that cost energy, do the one that costs more cards, not the one that, like, if they're the equivalent energy. I hope that makes sense, because our spark perks and items and such that increase the amount of spark charges will affect every trigger of this, and this triggers every time we spend an energy. So many small sums is better than 1 lump sum. But that said, most of our play patterns will not play into that too much, just something to keep of note if you're trying to min-max. And then Skillful says, hey, when you play skill cards, you draw cards. We're not going to be playing into that, mainly because 1, it costs 1 energy, and we want to spend our energy elsewhere. Also, spark charges, yes please. Level 3, we have 2 options, Voltaic Arc and Scholar. Scholar is kind of a big deal when you're a support. We're not going to go into it much here. It looks really cool and it's very nice, but we really want this Voltaic Arc. This is why we're bringing Wilbur to the Lightning team. This is why Wilbur is the Lightning team. Spark usually does not damage the target that it's on. It only targets the 2 next to it. You can get some perks that allow it to spread, but it will never damage the target it's on unless you have Voltaic Arc. And so now, not only do we get +1 spark charge, but now spark becomes a dot that does immense amounts of damage when it is capped out, or if you're not playing with restricted power on, just massive amounts of damage once it gets really high. So this is everything we want and what enables the Spark team to happen, because Spark without this suffers greatly on single targets. So level 3 you're going to get in the middle of Act 2, so you're going to struggle maybe with the tree boss, but once you get level 3, Wilbur really comes online for those single target fights. Level 4, we got 2 options here. One says Lightning. It is a trap card. This is the epitome of a trap card. It says Spark, and it says Lightning, and it's like, yes please, but it only triggers when we apply Energize, which, yes, we have Energize at the beginning of our turn, and there are lightning spells that have Energize on them, but those lightning spells are not good lightning spells, and we'll talk in more detail about each lightning spell in comparison later, but the cards that have Energize are not the cards we want to be playing, and so to make Tesla Coil work, we have to be playing suboptimal cards, and Tesla Coil is a 1 energy card itself and taking up a card slot, and overall, just to get the bang for the buck on this one, the numbers the lines never meet. You're always in the red with Tesla Coil, unfortunately, because to get use out of it, you have to play less efficient, and therefore any boost from Tesla Coil just doesn't add up. So what we're going to pick up is Transcribed, because Transcribed here is surprisingly good for our build. The next book, and I'll show you a couple books as we go along through this this guide. Take note of his starting card and some of the late game cards we're going to get, which ones are books and which ones aren't. This costs 0 and creates a card, so therefore it is cost neutral. This costs us nothing to play. As long as we have a book, a useful book to copy, this is always just a great card. Because then it just becomes a copy of that book, and if we're running a book, it's got to be a good book, right? So Transcribe is really great, and it comes into the build very late in the game, so all the pieces that it needs are going to already be in place by the time we pick it up. So fantastic option for us. Not to mention gain 2 Inspire when it's upgraded all the way. Fantastic. And then last but not least, we have +1 Energize, which, again, we will not be doing. And +1 Spark at 30% all damage. Yes, please. Remember, this 30% all damage does not affect the Spark ticking damage of the debuff on the enemies. It only affects your direct damage from your cards, but we will be doing a lot of that. So, even if this just said +1 Spark, we'd pick it up. But plus 30% damage... yeah, this really helps us melt the final boss, because you really want to get into this for the last, 3 or 4 fights of the game. Let's go to Wilbur's starting deck. Now, Wilbur, if you look here, what I have here is nothing like what he starts with. Yes, I kept some of the lightning spells, but a lot of the stuff gets cut. First off, let's go from top to bottom what there used to be. Shifting Scroll. Shifting Scroll. This is a card that is... oh, I guess I should have just done shifting. My apologies. Shifting. Shifting. Fingers, calm down. So, Shifting Scroll is nice for kind of a combo setup for the support version of Wilbur. But as the DPS version of Wilbur, we want as many damage cards as possible every turn. And because we want to be constantly casting spells and dealing that damage. And the problem with Shifting Scroll is that it's not card even neutral, it's card negative. We lose a card playing it. So it costs a card to spend it. You go look for 2, you discard 1. Hold on, I have to do the math here. 2, 1. Okay, so it's cost neutral. It used to be cost negative. I don't know how to play this game anymore. Hold on. Oh, no, you only put 1 into your hand. Yeah, sorry. So you reveal 2. See, this, it gets me even looking at it now. So I can see totally why people confuse it as to being a good card. You reveal 2, but you only put 1 into your hand. And then you have to discard another card. So you paid 2 cards to get 1 card. Yes, you have a card in your discard pile, which sometimes is useful, but not enough for losing a card. We'd rather just play the card to get in the discard. And then it also, and yes, we picked the right card that we want, but the opportunity cost of losing a card is just not worth playing Shifting Scroll, especially early on. This is a really great combo piece later when we can start copying cards and reducing the cost of cards, but we do not have that ability in our starting deck or in Act 1. So if you really want this effect, cut it now and craft it later. Do not keep it in Act 1 or even Act 2 kind of stuff, because you will just not get the value out of it. It's just basically a dead card in your hand. Yes, it feels nice to have the right cards you want, but then suddenly you're down a card, and it is not good for efficiency's sake. So that's why we cut it. It is card negative, it is not card neutral, and it has no effect on its own other than just shuffling some cards around. With proper deck building, we should be drawing the right cards anyway. It is very useful for a combo version, but we are not the combo version, and we have our own combo later in the game that does not involve this. Next is Librarian. So, Librarian, this, go find random cards. Yeah, we don't want random cards. We want consistency. Not many books are lightning books, and all of the books are slow cards, and on our DPS, we don't want slow effects. We want immediate effects. So the odds of this being a useful DPS item is slim, and if it is a DPS item, it's a slow gain. So very few gains out of this, if any, and they're slow gains. Pardon me, I'm recording this with breathing issues, so I might stop every once in a while to mute the microphone. Next are water jets. We cut them because, yes, we like the effect of rain, of wet, but there are more efficient ways to apply it than the water jets. Since the water jet damage type is frost, there's just no... it's a waste of 1 energy for the water jets, because it's just... even in its best versions, it's not doing enough damage for 1 energy. I'd rather spend that energy on these electric discharges, which are also not my favorite. So we're keeping the electric discharges kind of there is no better option. Upgrade them to blues if you'd like. We will be cutting all of them by the end of the game, But for now, these are our best choice that is outside of the rare category. This is why I say Wilbur comes into his own once you get to into the later game, and you can start picking up some of these lightning spells that we'll go take a look at later in the later acts. The best lightning spell you can craft in the early game is going to be Shock Nova. It does upgrade to a rare, so it is very expensive to craft and then upgrade. If you can't afford it, go ahead and upgrade it to one of these versions. If you have the energy, the 4 cost is probably the better one if you need to cast it twice. The 3 kind is very nice just because energy is such a premium in this game. You do lose a little bit of the damage, but the damage to energy ratio is much better for the 3 than the baseline. So, this is what we end up with. Oh, an unstable power. Let's talk about unstable power. Powerful. If ever you're building a damage dealer deck, except for maybe dark, you should be looking for powerful. And you either need to provide it on your own or have someone provide it for you. The ways to provide it for other people to give it to you is very slim, so usually you have to rely on getting it yourself. Of the options, there's only unstable power, and we don't want to be wasting cards. So, yes, it would be nice to not pay the 1 energy for the upgraded unstable power. It would be nice to just be playing a 0 cost version, but the 1 energy cost gives more powerful, replaces itself, and vanishes. And yes, we want the powerful, but we don't want to be wasting a card every turn gaining the powerful. So the vanishing version is best version. And also later in the game, we're going to want as many ways to draw a card as possible because we're going to be putting a lot of stuff on the top of our deck. So these are cards that are going to stick with us the entire game. Even if you have other sources of powerful, you're just going to be keeping this in your deck as a 1-mana draw card, which will be enabled by future combos with the card Twin Scrolls, which, saving the best for last. Twin Scrolls in all the options says duplicate it. The upgraded versions put it on top of your deck. The default version shuffles it into your deck. You're going to want to get this leveled up to where it's putting on top of your deck as soon as possible, because what you're going to do is we're going to find our best lightning spells, either cheat it out for 0 cost, reduce its cost down to 1 or 2 less, and then we're going to copy it, put it on top of our deck, and draw it. So Twin Scrolls, even though it's not going to get any, very little use to us in the first act, it's not something we can cut because it is a key point of our later gameplay. So yes, just count it as a gain 2 powerful if you have the upgraded version, gaining powerful. Otherwise, you just kind of gotta just bear with it and keep it with you until you get into the later game. What do we got here? Upgrade the zaps to target monster instead of random, because as anyone may know, targeting the right person, big deal. Being able to nuke down the right targets, especially with Spark. So, because the way Spark works and the whole, it doesn't affect the person it's targeting, you may want to do some manipulation of where the Spark is on the enemies. We're not going to go into that too much because there are so many edge cases on how to manage Spark, and eventually in the late game you don't have to manage it. So just kind of trial and error. You'll get a feel of it, and you'll always just think of Spark as a resistance reducer in the early game. Don't worry about it splashing to its neighbors. Later in the game, it'll splash really well and efficiently, and you don't have to worry about it. And later in the game, it'll affect the target as it's on. But in the early game, it's really just there to reduce the resistances of your target and increase the damage of future attacks. So you'll drop a couple zaps on the target, reduce their resistances, and then drop an electric discharge. If I talk slower, I can enunciate. An electric discharge to finish them off. So you'll just be kind of gauging, okay, can an electric discharge finish them off? No, zap them again, zap them again. Okay, now this will kill them off with electric. Don't worry about the spark splashing or anything like that. And if I didn't mention it, wet says all lightning damage is increased by 1. I believe this affects spark as well. For some reason, that's not coming to mind right now. I know I researched that at one point, but I forgot. So, but mainly it's here to just be increasing the damage of these zaps. And yeah, it's kind of a big deal, and we'll get into why with the perks, which we're going to right now. Perks. So, with the perks, normal stuff here, energy and speed based on your team. But all the good stuff's right here. So we want as many spark charges as possible. And there are actually two of these spark things that we really like. One says we do extra spark charges. We want that ourselves, because as the main light damage dealer here, we want to be doing extra charges. If you only have one person doing spark on your team, though, you have to pick this one up. This one is spark splashes to the sides. Like, by not splashing, it deals damage to the sides, and then it also adds charges to the sides, which can spiral out of control very fast in the later portions of the game, or even in the early game. Just, you're getting free spark with this. This will overall give you more spark than the plus charges in any situation where there's multiple targets. In a single target fight, you want this one, which is why I recommend bringing two people on your team that are doing spark charges, so that Wilbur can pick this one up and the other one can pick up the spark splashes. So we want the spark, we want the lightning because we're doing lightning damage, and then wet. There is one wet here that you don't have to pick it up, but someone on the team does. Wet reduces lightning resistance as well. So now we have both spark and wet reducing the resistance of our target and increasing the damage. Wet is also still adding +1 damage to all of our attacks and acting as mark wood. So it starts to add up very quickly when you start putting the wet and the spark together. And we'll talk about some items that really make that a big deal. So you don't necessarily have to pick it up on Wilbur, and there's only the one to pick up. Sorry, coughing here. But there's only the one you need to pick up. So if you have someone else on your team applying any sort of wet, and I recommend pairing Wilbur with another mage, specifically Evelyn, then have them pick this up so you have more perk points to place elsewhere, because you're going to need powerful. You need the plus charges, and you could go with the plus charges here, but this one is just so much better because charges decay slower. You're not going to really be able to maintain 10 powerful on yourself without outside help, so I don't recommend the far right one. For Wilbur, I recommend the middle one, unless you have a way to guarantee the right one. The middle one just says, hey, powerful stacks taller, and it doesn't decay as fast, which means that our vanishing versions of powerful is not, like, we're not being harmed by that as much. Or if eventually we get an item that produces powerful every turn, then we'll be able to get to those high stacks and maintain them better. Alright, where are we at? You need the Inspire because that's just a given. Bless. If anyone on your team is running Bless and being able to give you some, that amplifies your damage very fast, so I recommend getting the plus 1.5 Bless perk instead of +1. Yes, it reduces the healing you receive, but really, are you going to need healing when you can just deal more damage? That should be it for perks. Let's go take a look at the Act 2 deck list. If you have any questions, please let me know. And like I said, I respond to praise, feedback, questions, comments. Those kind of things all make me tick and help things. I always click on the wrong thing here and keep me going. So Act 2. Now we're coming into a lot of the key pieces that we need. We don't have our final form quite yet, but once we have access to rare cards, we have a lot of options at our disposal. Don't ignore this ball lightning here. We can't get that yet. Let's go rare lower. So once we get to the rares, we have options to a couple good ones here. Why is Superconductor? Oh, so Superconductor is probably the best one I recommend for a lot of reasons here. It does upgrade to the pinks, but that way you can craft it as a rare and upgrade it. You want as many targets as possible. Jump 4 means it hits 5 times. Because the way we're going to be dealing with Spark is we want to hit as many targets as possible, because we're going to be increasing our Spark charges via our talents, via our items, and then just the more Spark we have on a target, the more that Spark will splash. So the direct damage is not as important as just getting Spark on the enemy. And the best applier of that is going to be Superconductor, mainly because it costs 2, which is a big deal, because I'll show you some ways to reduce it and copy it. Because remember, we have a way to copy spells, and if we're copying very expensive ones that are hard to cast, that's not going to work. But if we copy cheap ones that are efficient, then we can play it multiple times in the turn. So what we're going to do is we're going to craft this Superconductor upgrade it, and then we're going to find ways to copy it and cast as many versions of it as possible and as often as possible. I'd run even 2 of these for most of the game if I can, but just having 1 and copying it will get us a very, very good distance. Still keeping the Shock Nova around for now, just because we don't have as many efficient ways, and since these are all rare, you can only craft 1 of each, at least in the medium to high difficulties. And then Chain Lightning is another option. Chain Lightning is better than Shock Nova, but weaker than Superconductor, because yes, it hits 4 targets, but it costs 4. So Shock Nova we can at least reduce down to 3 and hit 4 targets. Chain Lightning, you have either a 3 for 3 or a 4 for 4 option. The way the math and the chaining works out, the 4 for 4 is more efficient for damage to cost ratio, and also just hitting more targets is always nice. But the really big claim to fame with Chain Lightning is it's a good finisher, because if you notice on Shock Nova, it only says like 17 lightning damage and a lot of spark. And Chain Lightning says 34 lightning damage. So even though Chain Lightning is a kind of a heavy cost here compared to these other two, you notice these other two apply a lot of spark but very little lightning direct damage. Chain Lightning is there to finish off the target. So you start with Superconductor, pass out a lot of spark, and then you'll do a couple zaps to get a little more spark if you need to, and then you'll Chain Lightning to finish off the target. Usually you'll do your random ones first, and then your use these other ones to fill in the gaps. Like these zaps, you can either pink a priority target to get them more spark on them before you do your big nuke, or you can do your big nuke, see who it hits, and then finish off the rest with the zaps, if that makes any sense on the play pattern there. We'll show you the play pattern here in a bit. It's pretty fun. We now have brought in the electricity manual. Reason we didn't bring it in before is just because there wasn't a sufficient play pattern for it. Like, yes, the effect was always good and we could craft it, but we just didn't have a good enough target to put it on. And what we're doing with this is we're doing the 0 cost one, that we're taking a lightning spell from our discard pile and putting it back on top of our deck, but the cost is reduced by 1. And then what we're going to do is we're going to draw that card to then play it again. I do enjoy this version better than the where's the 0 cost one? This one that puts it back in your hand and costs 1 less, for a couple reasons. 1, this costs 0 to play, and 2, we're going to be copying these cards sometimes, and this electricity manual, the yellow one, has a permanent cost reduction on the card, whereas the blue one only says reduced by 1 until discarded. So we'd rather craft a cheaper version of Superconductor. We'll play it, we'll take it from the discard back on top of our deck with electricity manual. It'll now only cost 1. We'll draw it, then we'll twin scrolls it back on top of our deck again as now a 1 cost version, and then we'll draw it again and play it. So you can cast this single Superconductor 3 times in a turn, no problem, for only like 5 energy, because unstable power costs 1 energy, unfortunately. So that's why we want all these things that cost 0, is because we're going to take 1 card and just cast it multiple times in a turn. So if you can, I would say 2 Superconductors is probably better than these 3 combined. I have all 3 of these here because they are all acceptable options. Superconductor is the best just for the spark is the name of the game. And I was thinking about showing you 2 at combats. I'm just going to show you 1. We'll do an Act 4 one. Kind of show you that play pattern there. But yeah, we kind of start bringing in some extra little books here. I would probably only run 1 or 2 electricity manuals, too many, and they're just a waste of a card, because electricity manual is a card negative option. It is not card neutral. We are losing a card to play this. The reason it's nice, though, is because we want to craft a cheaper version of the spell and cast it multiple times, because we have twin scrolls. So if twin scrolls didn't exist, we wouldn't be playing electricity manual. But since it does, great things can happen. Yeah. What are we talking about here? Next is items. Items. So with Wilbur, there is a particular item that is very powerful. It's also kind of hard to get because of the way the zones work. Charged Trident. Lightning damage increased. Transfer damage to lightning. We're going to be playing lightning spells anyway. But every time you damage with hit, apply spark and wet. Remember, this is affected by your perks. So if you have anything that is increasing your spark and your wet, hello talents or items, then this can add up very quickly, which is why all of those lightning spells, the more powerful ones, are the ones that hit multiple times. Sorry. Trying to get through this with as few costs as possible. The on-hit effect is combined with our multi-hit spells really adds up to massive amounts of spark and wet. Once you have the charged trident, you are very, very frightening, as I said before, and to quote a fun song. You don't have to go for this. I highly recommend it to try it and see how you like it. The biggest trouble is that it is in the green biome, and the green biome is a lot of wet, lightning, and poison. And the problem with that is that some of the enemies there are super high resistances. I wish the Tome of Knowledge had monsters. There's basically the seahorses that do the same things you do, but their resistances to electricity are super high, especially if you have resistant monsters on. So it's really hard to deal enough damage to kill them as a lightning mage yourself. Lightning versus lightning, the seahorses win. So with that, you have to bring in another damage dealer, or say an Evelyn, to use her enchant weapons to change your lightning damage to, say, fire damage, which seahorses are weak to. So you have to kind of find a way around killing the seahorses. Yes, you can. I normally go to the green biome Act 2. You can wait to save it for Act 3. You just won't get the trident faster, but that will make that area a lot easier to deal with, because Act 3 green biome is actually easier than Act 2 green biome, in my opinion. And it's mainly just those seahorses that you got to deal with. So as long as you have a plan for the seahorses, Wilbur can handle picking up that item. And to get it, you got to go in the middle of the green biome. I'll show you the map here in a second. Once I guess we can look at the tome later. We're in the green, right? So the trident, it's here in this main temple. You got to go to the snake eyes, and you got to specifically look to pick up the treasure chest, not the rubies, because you only get one or the other. So you got to find your way there, either via boat this way or coming down here, get a free boat, and come up this path. Explore it to your heart's content, but your goal is to get here, fight the combat, loot the chest, and you'll get the trident. And with that trident, let's look at some more items again. Very fantastic. And then we also want to find other ways to increase our sparks. If you're not going for the trident, the Orb of Storms is very nice, or the lightning spear. You want just these on hits are better than otherwise, and since this is guaranteed, it's the one to go. But to supplement it, we also have the Hydra in the green biome drops the Storm Tiara, which would you say hello to plus charges on everything that the Storm Trident does, or the Charge Trident does? Like, Charge Trident plus Storm Tiara says win game, and they're both guaranteed drops in the green biome. So I think there's only one way to not get the Trident, is if there's an event that is covering up that node. I haven't tested enough to know. Someone else in the comments, please let me know if you can still get the Trident if the I don't think you can if the refugees are there. So there's a blue or green event that will stop you from picking this up. So the Storm PR is the other lightning thing to pick up. There's a couple things here. This lightning rune is not very, very beneficial because it's every 2 turns. Even the every turn option, I'd rather just put this, like, yes, if I get it, great. But I think the path here is mutually exclusive. Yeah, you can't pick up the Trident and go to the sales booth. So what I would do, though, is if this is blocked off by the event and you're still going to finish the run, path up here, you can either go down here and up, or this way. There's a way to get the Naga mural here. But either way, end up going to this antique shop and picking up a replacement if you want. If you're feeling like you really want the items here, because you can either pick up the Orb of Storms there or the lightning rune, depending on, I think it's RNG based. I don't think it's guaranteed to be in the shop both times. Yeah. And then, of course, Powerful is the other item that you're really looking for on your DPS character. Specifically, the Mystic Staff, you can also be picking up... Well, actually, I lied. That's weapon slot. We don't want weapon slots. My apologies. Titan Gauntlets is another option with the Hydra if you want someone else to pick up the Storm Tiara. This will give you Powerful every turn. Or there's, of course, the... Why is it... I wish it would show up here. The Lava Crystal from the Fire Boss. So if you went Fire second, or fire first, either way. Picking up this lava crystal allows you to get powerful every turn, which will help you maintain those stacks. Since the powerful cards that we're playing vanish, you will probably want at least one of these two to pick up. There is, of course, you could luck into the power coil, which is by and far and away the best option for your DPS, because powerful stacks and they stack higher, and you are dealing monstrous amounts of damage. Yes. I think that's really everything. It's really the Trident, the Tiara, and and the Titan gauntlets there. And you notice there's not really any good combination of these, because if you're getting the Tiara, you can't get the Titan gauntlets, because you can't pick two loots from the same boss. And if you're picking up the Titan gauntlets, then you don't need the lava crystal. So it's kind of hard to mix and match. Play it out the best you can. I personally enjoy the going just a normal, like, because your power gloves, your starting item has powerful on it, so you can keep that and then run the Trident plus the Tiara, and you'll be basically set. You will want someone else to reapply powerful in really long fights, but usually fights won't go long enough that that'll be an issue. And you can also just kind of meter out and kind of slowly consume these unstable powers. You could keep one for a later turn to make sure that you're at max powerful. And between the twin scrolls and the unstable power in your starting card, you should be able to get to max stacks relatively easily. It's just the maintaining it that's a lot harder to do. So yes, I've babbled enough about items. There's really not much to it. It's go green biome, pick up two monstrously powerful items, and you win. And that's where I'm saying Wilbur struggles coming into his own. He is weakest right here before picking up the Trident. If there's any sort of seahorses, if you look on this map, hey look, I don't have any seahorses. I think there is one guaranteed in the event here though. You do this event fight, there will be a seahorse. There won't be a corruptor, but there will be a mostly immune to lightning monster. Yep. That's enough talking about that. Let's go to Act 4. So in Act 4, you have to start worrying about Archon. Archon being the last boss who has monstrous amounts of hit points. He's only a single target. There's nothing to bounce Superconductor off of until like he summons an ad, you kill the ad, suddenly you don't have anything to bounce Superconductor off of. So, and all the other lightning spells I showed you were multi-target as well. You want to pick up Ball Lightning. Ball Lightning says Melt Archon. Ball Lightning says cost 7. Ball Lightning is fantastic. With it, you can run the white version just fine. It's expensive to upgrade unless you have a free upgrade, so don't be afraid to just run the white version. The biggest thing here is we want the hit 7 times, because we're going to have the charged Trident, hopefully, and we'll be applying monstrous amounts of spark with this. Even in a multi-target fight, it's okay to just hit 7 times. That's still hitting every monster twice, basically, right? So the only downside to this card is the energy cost, which is why we've got this electricity manual, this twin scrolls, and why I highly recommend bringing Evelyn along for Spell Echo. You can also bring Nez to also reduce the cost of your highest cost card. There's a couple ways to cheat out the Ball Lightning and make it cost 0, and that's what you want. You want some way to say, hey, well, I get a zero cost version of Ball Lightning, I copy it, I play it multiple times. You can cast Ball Lightning 3 times in a turn, no problem, and for only 7 mana or energy, and that's fantastic. Yes, this answers all of your Archon problems, and it's hilariously fun to play, and nothing will stand against you as long as you can cast it. So you got to make sure you're getting to that 7 energy and being able to correctly do the combo, which is why I have a mana gem. I have as many things that say draw a card as possible. The Scroll of Intellect says draw a card. That is why it's here. 0 cost draw. It also is a book that we can copy with transcribe. So all these things right here are just saying, please enable the use of Ball Lightning, and then we're going to copy it, and it will be awesome and powerful and amazing. Yes. So there's not really many cards in our deck other than play Ball Lightning as many times as possible. Let's go play Ball Lightning as many times as possible. So I did pick a Corruptor here that is increasing the resistances. This is only Madness 12. I chose my Madness 12 run instead of the 14 because it is much more fun to watch. Yes. So I'll just play through my team's turns that are pretty straightforward. Magnus here is applying the vulnerable. I'm checking their lightning resistances. The highest lightning resist is this Dracomancer, so he gets the most vulnerable. Evelyn, I want her to be doing the Arcane Conduit, so I want to help her draw as many cards as possible. Sorry, Arcane Conduit, I meant Spell Echo. So now I have Spell Echo on Wilbur. And I'm also going to give him Electric Weapons so that he's doing more Spark on hit. Remember all those lightning spells hitting multiple times? So beautiful. So beautiful. So one thing with Unstable Power and being a character that has lots of plus to Spark charges, you will be applying a lot of Spark to yourself. You either have to find a way to dispel it or protect your teammate next to you. So that's why Evelyn's passing the Insulate to Maluka. It's not going to matter in this fight, but we don't know that yet. Still the highest resistance is this Dracomancer, but the Belfer has twice as much hit points, so we'll resist him down a bit. Don't mind this. If you want to see, there's nothing crazy going on here that's Wilbur related. This is all just normal Maluka stuff. Other than this Benediction, I'm putting Bless on Wilbur. Just the more Bless you can get on Wilbur, the better, because we're doing those multi-strikes and multi-hits. And the only reason she took damage was because of the Corruptor. And here comes the super powerful Wilbur turn. What we're looking for is Twin Scrolls. Right here. So we'll have to find a way to get that. Our Circuit Overload. That's the first thing you do on a turn. Now, with the Spell Echo, I have to be super careful. As you see, I've got 3 enchantments. You get a 4th enchantment, this one will fall off. So you got to be... I can't be adding any more enchantments before I do this. Otherwise, this disappears. So I got to cast this as soon as possible. So we're going to cast this. I now have a 0-cost version in my hand. Now I want to copy it as many times and put it on top of my deck. My copying way is right here. So I'm going to draw that. So let's go ahead and draw my copy. And now here I can either copy a book, Twin Scrolls, and put 2 Ball Lightnings on top of my deck. But then I wouldn't be able to draw both copies. I'd only have 1 draw here. Which is still the version I'm going to do. But what you can do sometimes is if you're running out of card draw, you can use Transcribe to copy Scroll of Intellect. And so the way you do that is you play the Transcribe, and I can now either get 2 Scrolls of Intellect or 2 Twin Scrolls. We'll do 2 Twin Scrolls just because that's the one you're aiming to do more often. So now I've Twin Scrolled twice to put... There are now 2 Ball Lightnings on the top of my deck. I won't be able to draw both of them, but such is life. Okay, and now I have a turn to play. That was all the setup for the powerful turn. As you can see, even just doing that, I've got 100 Spark, 128 Spark. It is just ridiculous. So I've got 2 energy left. I can play Superconductor and 2 Ball Lightnings. 2 energy for 2 Ball Lightnings. It's fantastic. I'm just going to randomly shoot out Spark at people and see what happens. And they're going to get hundreds and hundreds of Spark on themselves. And remember, this Skull system will tell you everything's going to die on their turn. Also, this Spark is splashing to the sides, which the Skulls do not take into account. So this guy is going to kill him and his buddy. And if I want to, you know, get anyone lower or help finish them off, I can apply more Spark that way. And I can still have a little bit of a combo piece here and say, what do I want to play next turn? I'll play a 1-cost Superconductor. And that is Wilbur's turn. And then everything's just going to spark itself to death. And if they had triple the amount of hit points they had, they'd probably all still be dead because there was monstrous amounts of Spark. And it will splash, it will spread, it will ping themselves. It's just these perks. This perk plus this talent is just super deadly and hilarious, and everything dies and falls apart. Right, what am I missing? So, what we need, I didn't show it here, to unlock Wilbur, and then we'll do team comps as well. To unlock Wilbur, you have to go to the red biome. He will show up as a little question mark, and I don't have a red biome here to show, sorry, in the in the zone, sorry, a red exclamation point, you got to go pick them up, say, yes, I will go find the book for you. And to find the book, you got to come to Act 4, go to the library here, and it'll be the bottom option that says, yes, look up the floating machinery, or there's going to be some book on technology that you have to pick up for him. And that'll unlock Wilbur for your future play. Wilbur also has the ability to fly past these sentinels. This black statue and white statue, Wilbur can just fly past them into the ruins. You'll still want the Jade Key for the Jade Chest event, but even without the Jade Key, you can come to this event, pick up some loot. It's not going to be as powerful, but you can just... Wilbur gets you there without any problems. Usually I have to go find the quest line to get the keys to get past these two statues. And yeah, team comps. So this team comp in particular, the reason I picked Magnus is for the resistances. He is here to lower resistances, go first, do some speed manipulation, make my team go faster than the enemies, make the enemies go slower than me, and to basically make their life miserable for Wilbur to clean them up. For Evelyn, Evelyn here is to provide energy and wet. She wants to give spell echo to Wilbur, making it so he can cast those zero-cost ball lightnings. She provides wet throughout all parts of the game to make sure that the enemies are taking extra damage and lowering their resistances with wet. Squall is a really good fill-in for her to slow them and make them lower resistances. And then, of course, if she gets the time, she can apply a little bit of extra spark because she's really good at doing that kind of stuff. Enchant weapons also really helps getting past those seahorses in the green biome. And then, of course, she is here to be another person to pick up the spark charges so that I have 2 copies of the powerful effects there. Maluka, she's here to keep people alive and to apply bless. You can also run her with a little bit of baptism. Nez is a better baptism option, and Reginald is a better bless option. I was just playing Maluka because I needed her for some videos. There are other options that are better in this team comp. What am I looking at? Equipment. She doesn't really have much going on here. Perks. So she's just here. She was helping apply some wet because Healing Rain will do that. And she's mainly here for the heal and the bless and the regen. And just normal survival things for healers. And yeah. Other team comps that I'd run with Wilbur. You really need someone that can help you get past lightning immune targets. And most mage DPS, like if your main DPS is a mage, Evelyn is usually going to be on the team. This is just because Evelyn can change the elemental type with elemental weapons, and or enchant weapons, and she can also, if you don't need to change the element, she just buffs it anymore, because with her enchant weapon, it says plus spark charges, plus lightning charges. Like, she's just a really good support for any of these mage DPSs. If you weren't running her as a support, you would probably want... you really run just a mage to help Wilbur, because you also need energy. There's not really many people that can apply energy other than mages, so if Wilbur is your DPS, you're probably going to bring a mage support, either Cornelius or Evelyn. I think Evelyn is better. You're going to want someone to lower resistances, so you're not going to want an Andrin tank. You're going to want a warrior tank, so Magnus, Heiner, or Bree, just to get the resistances lower. I think Wilbur has a chance to go slower than Heiner, but Heiner is so slow. Oof, yeah, you could get Wilbur to go slow after Heiner if you went as slow as possible in Wilbur and as fast as possible in Heiner. Yep. And then any other synergies or anti-synergies? There's not really anything other than just the whole Evelyn thing and mages in general. Wilbur doesn't really get much benefit from the scouts other than maybe some Mark. Mark will work kind of like wet, but the nice thing about wet is it was also reducing the resistances of the target, so we really want as much wet application as possible. So that's where healers and mages come into play. Mages can cast rain, healers can cast healing rain, so yeah, that's about all I got for you. Bless, wet, and spark. Those are the 3 big damage multipliers for Wilbur. And yeah. If you like what you see, please remember there is a direct way to support me, and or if that's not your cup of tea today, then any sort of comments or thank yous for my time, because like I know it's a weird thing to ask for, but I do put a lot of effort into these, and it does make me feel good when people say, man, this is great and amazing. Because, and please, only sincere comments, because I try to be as sincere as possible, and I hope you are sincere as well. And if you'd like to see more of this content, please let me know what you need to see. I'm still working on all the character guides, and I'll try to be doing some more combat and or team guides, like specific team comps. And I will catch you later. Peace.